What's good with y'all, man? It's CTZ, and today I'll be doing a tier ranking list on all the teams in NBA 2K21 PlayNow Online this year. But before we get into the video, please consider dropping a like as it takes me a while to make these. And if you are new to the channel and enjoy PlayNow Online content, please consider smashing that subscribe button as we are on the road to 1,000 subs. It's completely free and it'll mean the world to me. And lastly, if you want to get to know me and see me play live on Twitch, make sure you get there. I'll leave the link down below. Now without further ado, y'all, let's get right into it. This is all based purely and solely off of preference and personal opinion. So my opinion, I might have some teams higher or lower than you might, but let me know down in the comments below what y'all think, man, and let's get right into it. All right, y'all, so first up, man, we have the Atlanta Hawks. This team, I love this team. Offensively, they're a juggernaut team. They're led obviously by Trae Young. He does all of the offense for me, at least for me when I use them. And he has Curry Siggs, man. He's the driving force of this team. And it depends if you want more offense or defense when you use this team. Me personally, I like to start out with more offense and have John Collins start at the 5 with this team, and I have Capella on the bench. But I like this team because you have Trae Young, Cam Reddish, Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Clint Capella. Like, that's a solid 6-man, 7-man lineup that you can choose from. The only thing I wish about this team was that I wish Cam Reddish could shoot the ball, because he has that Paul George release, which is nice. But nonetheless, I love this team, man, and I have this team actually really high in tier B, y'all. Next up, we have the Boston Celtics, y'all. This team is good on paper, but I don't know, man. In 2K, like, I don't really like Jason Tatum is their best player and all, but for me in 2K21 this year is Jaylen Brown. He's their best player, and he's the driving force of this team for me. I feel like I would put this team in tier A if 2K would have just let us have Taco Fall all year long. But because you got to deal with Tristan Thompson, I actually don't use Tristan Thompson. I use Robert Williams, which is solid. He's solid as a big, but he can't stretch the floor, and he's only 6'9", y'all. But he is a good screener and roll and catching lobs type of center. But yeah, I mean, like Evan Fournier, he's like my designated shooter. I don't really like his release. He be hitting a lot of whites for me. Marcus Smart is a good defender. I just wish he could make that 3-pointer so he could be a 3 and D player. And Jaylen Brown's like the only solid player that's a 3 and D player, but I'm forced to use him as a playmaker. I would use Kemba, but I don't really like Kemba because when he goes to the rim, he only shoots layups, and that gets contested so easily. And on top of that, his 3-pointer is not very good. Like if I look at it on the roster right here, it's only a 79, y'all, and like I'm not a big fan of it. And he's only 6 foot tall, so he's super small. He's not gonna be good on the defensive end. So with that being said, y'all, I have this team actually in tier B as well, and I have them lower than the Hawks. I would prefer the Hawks over this Boston team any day, even though they're in tier 1. All right, next up we have the Brooklyn Nets, man. They're also like the Hawks. They're really good offensively, but defensively they're not very good. I'll say that. Like, I have Kevin Durant guarding the best primary ball handler, bringing the ball up, because Kyrie Irving and James Harden aren't very good defenders as well. So I just depend on KD's length at that point. And I also run Joe Harris, who he's my designated shooter, but like his release is kind of slow, and I'm 50-50 with it. I ain't like knocked down with it, so I'm not a fan of him either. And in my 5 is I switch out between Blake and DeAndre, but I usually like DeAndre because he has better defense at least. They both are good at catching lobs though, but at the end of the day, I choose defense more since Blake can't stretch the floor like that. So I'd rather have DeAndre in. But with that being said though, I know this team is a tier 1 team, and some of y'all might have them in S, but I actually have them in A tier. Now, they are in A tier, but they're a high A. So I will say that they're probably going to be, I'm going to assume by the end of this video, they're going to finish at the top of A tier at least. All right, now we have the Charlotte Hornets, y'all. I'm a big LaMelo fan IRL. Like, I like this team moving forward in the future, but in 2K wise, LaMelo's not very good in PlayNow Online, in my opinion. His release is pretty huck. Like, I don't like it. He has that hitch to it, but I do a lot of playmaking with him. And I like this team though, because you have, the way I use them is I put PJ Washington at the 5 and Miles Bridges at the 4 and Gordon Hayward at the 3. I have Terry Rozier to start the game with LaMelo, and then I also like bringing Devontae in at times because he has that nice Treyberg release, y'all, and he could really spread the floor for you. He's just really small, but I like Terry Rozier more because he has hot spots all over the arc, the 3-point arc, and he has better badges and stats over Devontae, which is why I start him over Devontae. But with all that being said though, defensively this team's not very good, and if you run that lineup, an offensive minded lineup, they're bad defensively. And if you put Zeller in the game, like, he's not very good either in 2K. He's not a very good 2K player. So this team is really just an average team, and I have them belonging in C tier, y'all. All right, man, the Chicago Bulls is up next. Man, this is a team that I'm really mixed in between 2 tiers, y'all. And it's between B or C. They're either a really high C or a low B for me. Like, so I'll start them off in C tier, but above the Hornets. So, because they are much better than the Hornets. But and I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough. I'll put them in B, but they're low. Now here's why. I like them because they have Zach LaVine, who has Showtime, gold Showtime, and he has Steph Curry dribble sigs, and on top of that you have two bigs that can shoot the ball, and Nikola Vucevic and Lauri Markkanen. And then you also have another guy who has Steph Curry dribble sigs, which is Kobe White, and you also have Pat Williams, who's a 3-and-D player. Now that I think about it more, I actually think I'm gonna go with them in B tier for now, for the time being. Now, do I like them more than a team like the Boston Celtics? I wouldn't say so, y'all, because defensively they're not very good. Zach LaVine's not a really good defender. Kobe White's not a very good defender. You only really could depend on Pat Williams, who's a rookie, and rookies in 2K never get badges like that. They only have a couple here and there, and they're low tier badges, and their stats aren't very good. They have no hot spots or cold spots. So I mean, I guess you could say that's not that bad, but nonetheless, with all that being said, yeah, I'm gonna have this team low, on the lower end of B tier for now. All right, man, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're stupid hook, y'all. Like, I don't like using them. I've used them once, and luckily I didn't play someone that was a sweat. They have two small guards, y'all, that are super short. If we look at their height, Darius Garland is only 6'1", and Colin Sexton, they're both 6'1", and they're not the greatest defenders either. Like the Raptors squad, they have two small point guards in Lowry and Fred VanVleet, but at least they could play defense in 2K based according to their stats and badges. With the Cavs too, like the bigs that I use are Kevin Love and Jarrett Allen, who, I mean, Kevin Love's supposedly supposed to stretch the floor, but if you look at his 3-point rating, y'all, this year, it's only a 78. So overall, this team is not very good. And yeah, and then your small forward is, so yeah, this team is definitely F tier. They are not very good, and they're in tier 3 for a reason, but they are definitely at the bottom of tier 3 and at tier F, y'all. Ooh, we got the Mavericks, y'all. So with this team, y'all, I love this team because of the fact that you have 5 guys that can shoot the ball. You have Luka Doncic, or the lineup I use is Luka Doncic, Josh Richardson, Trey Burke, Max Kleber, and Kristaps Porzingis. And with that lineup, you have 5 guys that can shoot. If you want to cheese, you can take up Maxi Kleber and put in Boban Marjanovic and have 2 7'3" and up dudes in Porzingis and Boban. But the problem this year is scoring from the post is like dead. You can't post hook. You can't do anything through the post very well, and Boban's super slow. So I actually like to take him out and put Maxi Kleber in for floor spacing, because if you run into a sweat that knows how to really just make you have to score with Boban, you're not going to score at a high rate with Boban. So, but yeah, with that being said though, this seems solid all around. Like, I like using this team. I would put them in A tier, but they're not above the Nets. So they're right below that Nets squad. Next up is another very good team. This team is for sure gonna be an A tier. Now it's just a matter of, do I want this Nuggets squad to be above the Mavericks or below the Mavericks? And when it comes down to it, I honestly like using the Mavericks more. Now the reason being is because the Nuggets, like, yeah, they have a really solid overall team. When I use this team, I use Jamal Murray, who has Curry Sigs, and I use Aaron Gordon at the 2, who has Showtime, and he's a great defender. He's my primary defender. And then I have MPJ, who just stretches the floor. He's not very good defensively, but he's 6'10". And then I like Paul Millsap at my 4 because he could stretch the floor. He's actually like he has like probably my favorite release on that team, at least. And then you have Nikola Jokic, who you could run most of your offense through. Like, the way I play in terms of like rim running, 5-outing, and sometimes running around screens, you can't really do all of that with Jokic. The only thing you could really do is use him as a pick and popper, and it's hard to 5-out with him because he's super slow. So he's better in a 5-out situation where he stretches the floor, or he picks and pops and fades for you. So I'd rather use the Mavericks because I could go crazy with Luka and do most of my offense to Luka. And you have 2 bigs who could stretch the floor in Maxi Kleber and Porzingis, who's 7'3". So I know this team has Bobo, who's stupid cheesy, but even in Bobo, he's not very good at shooting threes. Like, he's only good when he's spot up and he's not tired. But I mean, if you want to cheese, this is like one of the most cheesiest teams you could use. But when it comes to a competitive game, y'all, this team has its flaws. But yeah, with that being said though, I have them right below that Nets and Mavericks squad in A tier, y'all. All right, y'all, so next up we have this Pistons squad. Man, I did a gameplay on this team. I don't know if you remember, if y'all ever tapped in with that, and it was for like my 500s or 600s win. And man, will I say, like, this team's not bad. Like, and when I use this team, they didn't have Killian Hayes. For right now, I'm gonna put him in D tier. And I just realized I just shot around with him the other day, but Killian Hayes also has Curry Sigs, which is crazy. He has that Curry slide, just like Dennis Smith Jr. And he also has base 98, I believe, or like a shot that feels like base 98 in Killian Hayes. But it's just, he's a rookie, y'all. He has no badge. I think he has like 1 badge, and it's like worthless. It's like a low tier badge. But he is 6'5". But when it comes down to it, I think if I were to use that team again, I still wouldn't use him. I would put Dennis Smith Jr. in as my 1. with Josh Jackson, Wayne Ellington, and Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee. And like your only two players that you could go to work with is Jeremy Grant and Dennis Smith Jr., who has those Curry sigs. And like defensively, this team isn't very good either, so they're obviously a lower team. I'm gonna have them in D tier for right now. Now we got the Golden State Warriors, man. I don't even need to say much about this team. This is probably the best team in the whole game this year in terms of current teams, at least. Curry is just the best player in the game, hands down, and you have Clay, who's like one of the best 3-and-D players. If they would have just had one more shooter, like I'm looking forward to using this team next year with Otto Porter Jr. because I like him on the Magic. I like his release, it's greenable. But yeah, I have this team as S tier, y'all. Next up we have the Rockets, y'all. The Rockets look good on paper because they have two stretch bigs and you have John Wall, KPJ, and Eric Gordon. But when I use this team, like, man, like they're okay. They're either at the bottom of C or at the top of D. And if I were to put them to a tier, I'm gonna put them in tier D, honestly, y'all. I'm not a big fan of them. I'd rather use this Hornet squad because even their stretch bigs and Christian Wood and Kelly Olynyk, I can't knock down like that with them. Whereas with this Hornet squad, I'm more knocked down with PJ Washington and Miles Bridges and Gordon Hayward. And even Eric Gordon, like I can't shoot well with him. And Kevin Porter Jr. So it's like the floor spacing is just terrible with this team. And John Wall has to do it all for the most part and go to the rim. So yeah, with that being said, I have them at the top of D tier for right now. Pacers, man, this Indiana Pacers. I don't like this team very much either. If y'all saw my recent gameplay on them, like I was struggling. I know I was going against Kobe's classic Lakers, but still, man, Malcolm Brogdon has Curry sigs, and you have Sabonis, and you have Miles Turner. And Karis LeVert is not a very good 2K player. He's good IRL. He's solid IRL, but in 2K, he is not a good 2K player. So it's like, what is he doing on the court for you? And then TJ Warren too, like he was low-key a bucket last year, at least in the bubble from what I remember. I'm not a big fan. I'm not too high on this team. I'd have them higher than the Pistons, but lower than the Rockets for sure. All right, this Clippers squad, y'all. This one might throw y'all off, but I actually have them in A tier above the Nets. Now, here's why. Defensively, they could match up with damn near any team in the league in the game. And on top of that, if you run a lineup of PG at your 1, Kawhi at your 2, Reggie Jackson at your 3, Marcus Morris at your 4, and Ibaka at your 5, all 5 of them could shoot the ball, y'all. Like, I like shooting with Marcus Morris and Ibaka comfortably. Like, I could green with them comfortably. So that you can literally run a 5-out with them. And on top of that, like I said, defensively, this might be the best team in the game defensively. So, like, if you were to run a matchup with two sweats going up against each other with the Nets and Clippers, I think the Clippers really could take that because, like I said, they're deep, and you have Patrick Beverly come off your bench who has good defense as well if you want to take out Reggie Jackson. But the biggest thing is they also have Reggie Jackson who has Curry sigs. So if you need to like play make, Reggie Jackson can do that. He just can't really 3-hunt very well. But all of these guys, like I said, in a catch and shoot situation can make threes, and they can all play defense, especially with Paul George and Kawhi just beating up the primary and secondary ball handlers. Like, I would take this team any day of the week over that Nets squad, hands down, y'all. Now, obviously, Nets have the best player on the court, which would be KD, but you have, like I said, two great defenders that could really just be a pest for KD and the other, whoever it is, Kyrie and James Harden. Now, the Lakers are hands down going to be S tier, y'all. I don't have them over the Warriors though, because the main way you score is with rim running with LeBron and kickouts. And if you just literally just make him try to dunk over you and not give up too many threes to Caldwell Pope and whoever it is that he's shooting with, and you're going for threes with Clay and Steph, you're gonna obviously win the game and wear him down with twos while you're getting threes. So yeah, there's two other teams really similar to this Lakers squad. But yeah, with that being said though, I have them in S tier behind that Warrior squad. Next up, we have the Memphis Grizzlies. I used to be high on this Memphis Grizzlies squad in the middle of 2K21 this year. But as the year went on, I started to realize like I might have just had good games early on when I first started using them. Because I remember the few times I used them, Jonas Valanciunas and Jaren Jackson Jr. were knocked down. Like their jumpers were water. I was literally greening everything. So if he didn't help, I would just go crazy with John Morant and get contact dunks and Showtime dunks. But even John Morant too, I feel like they nerfed him a little bit because I was literally, if you saw my gameplay, I was doing like I had a lot of games, not just that one, where I was jumping over dudes and getting these crazy animations with Ja. But now, like at the end of this year, after all the updates and there's not going to be any more updates with 2K21, like they like turned them down a notch. Like I would have had this team in A tier, somewhere in A tier, but because of the updates and everything, I have them in B tier, right behind that Hawks squad, yo. Next up, we have this Heat squad. This is a prime example of a team that's good, or at least solid IRL, but in 2K they're not very good. Like Jimmy Butler is a great player IRL to have in real life, but in 2K, he's not that guy. And luckily he has Curry SIGs. I don't know why 2K, like I don't know how 2K designates who has the best dribble SIGs, but they gave it to Jimmy Butler, yo, like out of all dudes on this team. But yeah, Jimmy Butler can't even shoot threes that very well. He's just a great defender, and even slashing to the rim, he's not the best either. And then you have Bam Adebayo, who's only 6'9", yo, like that's a small center that can't space the floor very well, only to the mid-range, and his mid-range even then is only a 75. So it's like, you know what I mean? And then like you have Victor Oladipo, who's washed up, and in 2K he's really just a slasher. And then you have your two shooters in Tyler Hero, and then you have Duncan Robinson, who's like supposed to be like, you know, a marksman shooter from the outside with an 88 3 ball, but because of his release and he has that long load up and that slow hitch, it's easy to get a contest on it, even if you're trying to rotate and bait it. So with that being said, y'all, I have this team just right above that Hornet squad. All right, this Bucks squad is just basically a clone of that Lakers squad, and it comes down to preference. I think this Bucks squad might have better defense than the Lakers. It's hard, man, for this between these two teams and the other team that's gonna go up here later. It like they really be switching off for me like every day I use them. Like whenever I use the Lakers or the Bucks or the other team I'm gonna get to, like there be days where I go off with the Bucks and I suck with the Lakers, and there be days where I go off with the Lakers but then suck with the Bucks. Like it's really just a day-to-day for me, man. But if I'm gonna really come down to it, I know I made a ranking list on this on tier 1 and I had the Lakers higher, but today as of right now, I actually like this Bucks squad more. I'd rather use Giannis and Drew Holiday and shoot with Chris Middleton than have to shoot with Caldwell Pope and rim run with LeBron. So yeah, I have this Bucks squad below the Warriors but higher than the Lakers in S tier. Now this Minnesota team is an interesting team, y'all, and I have them either really high in C tier or low in B tier. Now to start off, I'm gonna put them at the top of B tier, right above the Heat. And here's why. I like D'Lo because he has Curry SIGs, he has Curry slide, and he's pretty solid as a shooter, mostly in a catch and shoot. I wouldn't really quick stop with him. And then you have Anthony Edwards, who's just pure slashing. And then you also have Jaden McDaniels, who is kind of a stretch 4 in a way. He's like 50-50. Some games I'll shoot well with him, some days I won't, but he's 6'10" and he's lengthy and he's pretty quick at his size. And then you have Malik Beasley, who is my designated shooter. I run most of my 3-point plays for him, and I like his release a lot. It's solid. It's kind of a hitch to it and it's kind of slow, but you know, this is PlayNow Online. You don't have anyone with a quick release. But yeah, and then you have Karl Anthony Towns. He's the biggest factor for this team. If you can shoot with him, then this team could some days be B tier for you. If you're missing shots with him, I feel like then he would be this team would be in C tier for you. And for me personally, I put them in C tier because I look at the teams in B tier and I feel like I would choose all 4 of these teams over that Minnesota squad. But don't get me wrong, this team is like high in C tier, like borderline, like right, they just barely got cut from B tier and are really high on C tier, yo. Man, this Pelican squad, I love this Pelican squad. They grew on me like mid of the year, like because I wasn't really tapping in with them because Lonzo Ball had a terrible release to start the year, who couldn't shoot the ball, and I believe Brandon Ingram was only 6'7", and they finally gave him an inch or 2 and made him 6'8", 6'9", what he should be. And they definitely gave Zion a boost because I swear to start the year he was only like 6'5" or 6'6", and now he's 6'7". And same thing with Brandon Ingram. I remember he was 6'7" for sure, and now he's 6'8". So, and after using them more, like Brandon Ingram and Zion are so tough, y'all, like so tough, like I kid you not. So yeah, I like this team because defensively you have Bledsoe and Lonzo beating up the guards, and then you have Zion that has good, he's just like, he's the mini LeBron basically, just running to the rim, getting contact dunks on contact dunks, and Showtime as well. And then BI, I love BI because he's 6'8". He's really a little KD, mini KD at 6'8" that can move around screens, quick stop, and he can green those shots, y'all. And he could also obviously slash, so he's like a little demigod in my opinion. And if I were to choose, this team is actually really high for a tier 3 team, and I would actually put them right here, right before that Nets squad and above that Mavericks squad. Now, they won't be able to hang offensively with this Nets squad, but I do think that they can definitely beat a team like the Mavericks. If there was 2 sweats going up against each other, I definitely think this Pelican squad is better than that Mavericks squad, y'all. So I have them in A tier, right in this spot right here. Next up, we have the Knicks. This Knicks squad got mixed feelings for me. I played with them only a couple times, so it's only a small sample size. And when I was using them, they didn't have their big in Mitchell Robinson. But I'm assuming he's just like Nerlens Noel, who held his own for me when I did a gameplay on them earlier in the year. I like RJ Barrett a lot. He has Steph Curry dribble sigs and he's 6'6". I like to use him as my point guard. And then obviously I love Derrick Rose too, but he's washed. You know, I wouldn't say he's washed, but he's definitely nowhere near that prime level Chicago Bull D Rose. And then I use Emmanuel Quickly. So the only thing holding this team back, I would say, y'all, is a shooter. They need that shooter, and I end up having to use Emmanuel Quickly as my shooter, because in shoot around and just using this team, like, he's the most greenable shot. But I like Randall because he's a stretch big. But with that being said, y'all, I have this team just above D tier and below C tier. Like, they were borderline for me. Like, I was thinking of putting them in at the top of D tier, but yeah, for now I put them right here below that Hornet squad. All right, so coming in next is the OKC Thunder. I actually like this team because I really like Shea. He's a big point guard. Let's see his height. Shea's a 6'6" point guard who has an 85 3 ball. I love his release. Lou Dort is only 6'3", but he feels a lot bigger on the court because of his build, and he can actually shoot the ball pretty decent, especially once Shea Gilgeous gets that playmaking takeover. And then you have two bigs in Al Horford, and for right now Moses Brown is on the roster. And when I used this team, he was obviously still in the roster. Now I will say Al Horford could have made this team much better if he didn't have cold spots literally all over the arc, and if his release wasn't so terrible. But because of that fact, and he's only 6'9", which is crazy. I swear he was like 6'10" or 11. But anyways, Al Horford would, if he would have just been able to stretch the floor way better at a high efficiency, he would have probably put this team in C tier for me. But because of that fact that you could only work with so much in this team, which is basically just Shea Gilgeous, I'm gonna have them in D tier at the top of it though. I'd rather use this team than that Rockets team, I feel like. And I wish, I don't know how to say his name, but I know his last name is Pokuševski. I'm intrigued by his game. Like, I'm really intrigued to see how he pans out IRL, because I feel like he could be a demigod in 2K if he just gets it down. Because I've seen the way he played. He got a lot of potential. He's only 18 years old and he's 7 foot. If he could just get that 3-ball down and be a decent playmaker in 2K, he's gonna be nasty, y'all. I promise y'all. Down the road, Pokuševski's gonna be solid. So yeah, with that being said, yo, I'm gonna have them at D tier, at the top of D tier. All right, y'all. So for this Magic squad, this is a tier 3 team. This might, I don't know, this might surprise some of y'all. I don't know if a lot of y'all use this Magic squad, but I actually see this team being just below that Minnesota team and above that Heat squad. So here's why. They have Mo Bamba, who's a stretch center, and he has length. Like, he's stupid lengthy, so he's gonna get a lot of contests, blocks, and he might not rebound very well, because for me, he doesn't rebound very well. But because of his build and the fact that he can stretch the floor, I like Mo Bamba a lot in 2K. So yeah, that's already a good start to this team. And then you have Jonathan Isaac, who I like to run at my shooting guard because I run my 2-3 zone blitz defense, and he's 6'11" too, and he could lock up. And his shot is not very good, I ain't gonna lie. He only has a 77 3-ball, and there's a hitch to it. But defensively, this team is like a monster. And then I also run Otto Porter Jr., who's my designated shooter. I run all my 3-point plays for him. I like his release a lot. He has an 81 3-ball, and he's 6'8", so that's another lengthy guy. And then I finish it off with Gary Harris, who's usually my primary ball handler defender, and he's basically a 3-and-D player. Like, he's solid because he has 2 hot spots in both corners. And then I like to run RJ Hampton at my 1. RJ doesn't do much other than slash and play make. He doesn't really shoot threes because he only has a 71 3-ball, and his release isn't, I don't really remember his release, to be honest with you. But when I did the gameplay on him, I remember he was able to play make for me, and the reason being is because he has Curry slide, he has Curry sigs. If you're finding a new team, you gotta find, every team usually has one guy that can dribble the ball really well, and it's random. And for this team, it's RJ Hampton. So yeah, but for now, I have them in C tier, right below Minnesota. All right, and this was the third team I was referring to back earlier. So this Sixers squad is really intriguing to me because they're more of an offensive team compared to the Lakers. Now here's why. You have Tobias Harris, who I can green more, me personally at least. I agree more with him than AD, but then obviously AD is way better defensively. But then they make up for it because they have basically a little LeBron and Ben Simmons. Obviously Ben Simmons is not as good stat-wise, badge-wise, but he's 6'11", y'all, and he gets glitchy animations, and he's a very good defender. He can't shoot the 3-ball that well. But then you also have Seth Curry, who I like shooting with, and you also have Danny Green, who's solid just in a catch and shoot situation. But because you have Seth Curry, he can run around screens and kind of shoot the ball and quick stop. You can't really do that with KCP, at least in my opinion. So like I said, day to day, these three teams be changing for me, like who I like most out of these three. And I know I did a ranking list for tier 1 in the top 3 teams, and obviously this will never change. Warriors will never change. But really, these three teams, it just depends on the day for me, y'all. But as of right now, and to end the year, I actually think I'm gonna put this Lakers squad last, which is funny because I had them above these two teams. But I'm gonna take the Bucks and over the Sixers squad and put the Sixers squad just above the Lakers and right below the Bucks, y'all, in S tier. All right, now we got the Suns, man. This Suns squad is okay. They're mediocre. You do a lot through Devin Booker and CP3, and then like they're solid because they have DeAndre Ayton, who's a really good defender and gets a lot of rebounds, and he's good at catching lobs. And then I use Torrey Craig at my 4 and Mikal Bridges at my 2 or 3, depending on the day, if I want more defense up top or not on my zone. So but yeah, with this team, y'all, like they're more steady than this Minnesota team. This Minnesota team is like, some days I'll do good with them, some days I won't. But at least with this team, I know what I'm gonna get every single time. And I actually like them more than that Bulls squad, because of the sheer fact that CP3 could just quick stop anywhere in the mid-range and make it. And you also have D-Book, who can quick stop too, and he can shoot at the 3-point line. It's just, it really depends on the day for me with D-Book. If D-Book's hitting for me, this team could be really good offensively. If D-Book is off, then like I'm really just depending on CP3 to shoot mid ranges or throw lobs to DeAndre Ayton or kickouts to Torrey Craig and Mikal Bridges. So yeah, with that being said, I have this team more so on the bottom of B tier. Portland, y'all, man. Portland, I like this team a lot, man. I like this team a lot, but I will say I'm gonna put them right here in A tier, but I'm gonna put them at the bottom, y'all. Here's why. They're really good offensively. You have CJ McCollum, Damian Lillard, and you have Norman Powell, who they traded for at the trade deadline last season, who can all shoot threes, and Robert Covington, who's a really solid 3-and-D player. He's the guy that really beats up the other team's point guards, whoever brings up the ball for me. And then you have Nurkic. That's the downfall. Nurkic, he's slow, he can't stretch the floor, and shooting mid ranges, I don't even really like shooting mid ranges with him either. So if this team would have just had a better center in 2K, at least, like even like a Mo Bamba, man, this team could have been higher. But I feel like this is the right spot for them. Like if I'm gonna choose between Denver and Portland, I think I'd rather choose Denver than Portland. So yeah, with that being said, y'all, I'm gonna put Portland at the bottom of A tier. Kings, man, this Kings squad will always have a special place in my heart because I'm a big Kings fan, y'all. So yeah, we have Tyrese Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, and I use Harrison Barnes at my 4 and Hassan Whiteside at my 5 because Bagley is just not very good in 2K this year. I used him last year a lot, but once Hassan came, Hassan's just so good at 2K. Like he's like a perfect 2K player who just plays defense. He's huge and he catches lobs. But yeah, this team, I actually like using them more than the Hawks. So I'm gonna put them right here above the Hawks at the top of B tier for the time being. Reason being is there's times where Trae Young isn't greening for me, but there's also times where Trae's like hitting for me. Whereas the Kings, I green more with Buddy. And I also have De'Aaron Fox, who can rim run, and he's stupid fast like a little crackhead. And then Tyrese Halliburton, who's a solid 3-and-D player. Same goes for Harrison Barnes. So like this team is just more consistent for me, I would say, compared to this Hawks squad. I will say the Hawks are better offensively overall, but in terms of two-way, this Kings squad is way better defensively in my opinion. Just all around, in my opinion, if between the two lineups that I use, at least between these two teams. So yeah, with that being said, y'all, I have Sacramento at the top of B tier, right below A tier. And the San Antonio Spurs, man, I was high on this team to start 2K and also in 2K20 last year. The reason being is that they fell for me. Like this team, before in the past, I might have put them here in B tier, but because they lost LaMarcus Aldridge and now you have to depend on Jakob Poeltl, who he's basically a bum in 2K. Like that's a big loss because LaMarcus could stretch the floor in 2K. He could shoot the 3 and you could space him out into the corner if you want to 5-out with DeMar or Rudy Gay and kick out to him if they want to paint it off the center, which would be LaMarcus. But that was a big loss, like I said. So yeah, right now with their roster right now and what it looks like, I would probably put them right here because you could still go crazy with DeMar. He has T-Mac base. You can go crazy with Rudy. He's 6'8". You could put both of them at the top of your 2-3 zone and just go crazy on the blitz. And not to mention, Rudy Gay has Curry 6. If you didn't know that, he's probably the tallest player I feel like in PlayNow Online, current teams at least, that has Curry 6, y'all. He has that Curry slide and it's just crazy to me. And then you have Pat Patty Mills, who I run my threes for, and he has base 98, which is a nice release. And then I actually like to run Lonnie Walker on my 4. He's a solid 3-and-D player. I like his release. I like to just literally shoot with him in the corner. But then, like I said, with the loss of LaMarcus, they went from like a B tier type of team to a C tier, unfortunately, type of team. All right, next up, man, we have this Raptors squad, man. And I think the main reason that attributes to that opinion is because they're in tier 1. I don't know why 2K put them in tier 1. They should be in tier 2 or even tier 3 because they're just not good in 2K. Like, you have 2 guards that are like basically 6 foot tall. And then you have Pascal. And the lineup I ran was Pascal along with the 2 small guards with Chris Boucher, who I like his release, but the problem with Chris Boucher is he has a cold spot in that right corner, so that hurts him as a stretch big. But from that left corner, he's greenable. And then you also have OG Anunoby, who's a solid 3-and-D player. He has an 6'7" frame, and he has a nice build. He's a good 3-and-D player, but still, like I said, I mean, even though Kyle Lowry got Curry Sticks and all that, I'm gonna be nice and put them, man, this team, man, I think it's disrespectful to put them in D. So I'm going to actually put them, man, I'm gonna put them, I think C's right here, like literally right in the middle of C. I think that's where they belong. Like, I'd rather pick these 3 teams any day of the week before this Raptor squad. When it comes to these teams, I'm not too sure if I would pick them over the Raptors. It really depends on the day of the week. So with that being said, yeah, I have them right in the middle of C tier, y'all. All right, second to last, we have the Utah Jazz. This is a steady team. You know what you'll get from them. You'll get contact dunks and rim running plays with Donovan Mitchell, and then kick out to everyone along the arc except for Rudy Gobert. And Rudy Gobert is like a good defensive big who can catch lobs. And then you have your shooters around the arc, obviously, and Joe Ingles and Bojan Bogdanovic and Mike Conley. And you have Royce O'Neal too, who's a solid 3-and-D player. So this team is really steady. I like this team a lot. I don't think they belong in A tier though. And I honestly think, so right now, it really depends, man. Honestly, if I'm gonna choose, I'm gonna put them right here. I'd rather go crazy with Trae Young and depend on him to make threes and run around screens and play off of Trae than have to always rim run every play with Donovan Mitchell, y'all. So with that being said, yeah, I have them right here below the Hawks, but also above the Memphis Grizzlies in B tier, y'all. Last but not least is this Wizards squad, y'all. So this Wizards squad is really intriguing to me. I didn't really use them a lot this year, but I'm starting to now, and I like this team. I like to run it with Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal at the 2, Isaac Bonga actually at my 2, and Bradley Beal my 3. And then I have 2 stretch bigs in Thomas, I believe his name's Thomas Bryant, I don't know, him and Davis Bertans. I really like the structure of this team because you can 5-out with Russell Westbrook and just go crazy because Russell got Curry Sigs, and on top of that he has gold showtime, and you could quick stop with him in the mid-range. It's not as a high efficiency like CP3's level, but it's greenable. Like, if he wants to just sit in the paint with whoever's guarding Westbrook, you can really just stop in the mid-range and pull, and you'll green that. But he can't shoot from 3, I will say that. And if Bradley Beal would have just been a little bit better, like, I don't know what it is, like, he's not knocked down like that, this team would have been a lot higher. But at the end of the day, I think I would take this team. I would probably take this team over the Suns, but I don't know if I would take them over the Boston. So yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna put them right here, right in between the Boston and the Phoenix Suns to cap out all the teams in PlayNow Online in 2K21 this year. But alright then, y'all, that is gonna wrap up this video. I hope y'all dig it. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to smash that subscribe button as we are on the road to 1,000 subs. It's completely free and it'll make my day. And as always, I appreciate every single one of y'all, and much love.